Good morning, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you so much for joining me. My name is Greg Swallow from Sage Alerts and Workflow. Corporate name is KnowledgeSync. You may see it when you get the documentation. It'll have KnowledgeSync on it, but the product is Sage Alerts and Workflow. Today, I'm going to talk to you about actionable insights, 12 ways to improve your business with alerts and workflow. Next. So the first thing we want to talk about is where does it sit on the database? It sits with Sage 100, but for you in the audience who may have Sage Fixed Assets or Sage HRMS, it works with those products as well. It sits within the database itself. It sits within a cloud solution, deployed in the cloud, deployed in client server, but it sits with the database. Extracting that data to move between yourselves and your customers, your vendors, your employees. So information that's residing within Sage 100, we're using. The first way we do it was forms delivery. So all kinds of different forms are created with the Sage 100. And it could be quotes and invoices and orders, and they may have to separate them between who gets what within the organization. So you don't want to broadcast it to everyone. You want to go specifically to the person. So quotes go to the customers, but maybe a copy goes to the sales manager, maybe a copy goes to finance as well, so that people are getting visibility to it without having go into Sage 100 to capture the data. It's being delivered to them by email. So it'd be quotes, invoices. Good one is statements and dunnings, right? We all send out invoices. So when an order closes, we create an invoice, have it automatically send the invoice out to the customer. At the same time, why don't we use the API of Sage Alerts and tie it into SurveyMonkey? So when the invoice goes out, at the same time, we put a hyperlink in there for SurveyMonkey if you're tracking your NPS score. So there's an opportunity to expand the product from not only delivering it, but actually creating a workflow on top of it. And then finally, once we send out our statements, we want to move to continually following that statement till we get to a point where maybe we get to 60 days and we want to notify the customer and the salesperson. Maybe we get to 90 days and we run a workflow that puts that customer on credit hold. That's up to you, but the ability within the software is there, right? So we have different inventory items, pick lists, receive lists, transfers, anything that has to do with the forms that you're creating within Sage. Sage Alerts and Workflow can extract the data from the database and then move it to the appropriate person in the way that they want to see it. We've got exception management, and that may be important in your business right now. So what's an exception? 90% of the things happen in your business, tickety-boo, it continues on, does what it's supposed to do. But what happens if a customer sends you an order and just because their destination of final receipt doesn't have a fork truck driver? They only have people who can lift less than 50 pounds. So their information that they send you on the PO is packed shipment in less than 50-pound boxes. Well, that's an important call out that we want to capture so that it gets followed through and everyone that does need visibility to that information has visibility to that information, getting an alert to let them know it's happened. Maybe you have scenarios where thanks very much for your order, but truly nothing's going to happen with that order until we get our deposit, right? So we want to have that deposit. And maybe the next step on that order is once drawings are released or once information is released, we need a second deposit, right, before the product actually ships. So those are some of the exceptions that we can look at as orders flow through the system. So yes, you have people doing it, but great thing to have a backup of having the software watch for those exceptions and notify the appropriate people down the line that this is coming and they should be aware of it. We have time responses. So think about, your daily business and order by date, ship by date, approved by date, cancel by date. There's all kinds of dates or time responses that we need to react to within our business. Who needs to know that information because it's on the order, but who within the organization needs to know it? Would it be helpful to have an alert go out to them, maybe by email, maybe by SMS, that allows them to know that, hey, this needs to be approved, or this needs to be ordered, or this needs to be shipped. Would it be helpful for your department to have a list of all the orders that have to be shipped today, or all the orders that have to be shipped this week, or all the products that are going to be received this week or received today? Right? Those are time responses. We have the data within Sage 100. We're just aggregating it and delivering it to the right people so that they know. I suspect that somewhere along the way they do know, or the surprise is, hey, this stuff's came in today. But wouldn't it be great to have that timed out so people know that things have to happen? Ship by dates are absolutely critical, right? So we have to, whether we're going to cross stock or whether we're going to direct to consumer, those ship by dates are important because you could be a subcomponent of something else. You could be having to rent shelf space at a retail level. There's all kinds of things that we want to look at from time responses and ship dates. So let's use the software to notify us, right, to create that alert to send that information out to the appropriate people. The alert can go both internally and externally. So once you create it, maybe you want to notify your customer that you've met your ship date, you acknowledge their ship date, right? So there's an opportunity to communicate or have the software communicate and create that customer experience without having a human intervention with that. And then we have threshold monitoring. So what are the types of thresholds that you look at from your business, right? And it could be past due amounts. Are you not comfortable with the credit that you have extended in your accounts receivable? Maybe you want to put a high and low on there, and when it gets too high, send an alert out to the appropriate people. Quantities on back order, discounts amounts, right? Total freight charges. And maybe that's important in today's world with tariffs. You'll put a 10%, 15%, whatever the number is of the day. Let's notify you when that comes in greater than that number, right? So that you're aware. Because the process of software, once everything's plumbed in, it will continue to run. But it's that, again, exception or that threshold that's changed that you want to be notified about. From a sales point of view, what was the total orders of sales that we've got in today? Did it meet or exceed our expectations, or did we fall short? Right? Those are thresholds that we want to send to the sales manager. Did our cash on hand change? Did our accounts receivables change? Those are types of thresholds that you want to know. How many orders do we get in? How many orders do we ship? How many orders are supposed to ship this week? Did our products come inbound? Those are thresholds that we can set up alerts for, that instead of you going to the system or asking questions throughout your organization, that information is shared with you on a hourly basis, once a day, first thing in the morning, last thing at night, so that you have basically a snapshot of the activities for the day based on what makes you sleep at night. And then we have assignments and approvals. And sometimes, you'll get orders inbound, and what is the next step? Well, is it finance? Do they need to approve a creation of a purchase order to get vendors to get subcomponents in? Do we need to create a bill of material? Has that been done? Do we have inventory in stock? We check that sort of idea. Do we need to send WMIS reports? Are there drawings that have to be sent for a subcomponent to be created, or a floor to be presented in the right concrete mix to present the machinery, for example, right? So there's assignments and approvals that go on within your organization. Who does it? Who's responsible for getting it to the approver? And what is the case when the approver is not there, or the approver approves it and gets it back to Sage 100? Let's have the software monitor those steps. And as soon as something needs approved, let's send an alert to them. And let's put a timestamp on that. Let's say I want an approval in 24 hours, or I expect if I send it to you today, I have that approval the next day. If I don't get that approval, send an alert out to maybe a wider audience. Send it to the same person again, but maybe send it to their manager, or send it to a greater group, so that we know that something's going on and has to move forward. So things aren't being stalled in your order to cash process. If an assignment has to be done and hasn't taken place, you could be burning time. And that goes back to the first point, if you have order by date, ship by dates, and cancel by dates. So we want to make sure that all the assignments and approvals have been done as they're going through the process with Sage 100. And then we have enterprise-wide auditing, right? So there's all kinds of things. If I took a snapshot of your customer base and I pulled out all your customers and I said, these are the credit limits of all your customers. Are you comfortable with what you've presented over the course of time, right? Maybe you want to adjust that. Maybe you want to look at, well, let's look at their AR aging reports and how many customers have exceeded their AR aging reports, right? Now we tie that back into credit limits and make more defined information, right, based on that credit limit. The right customers are getting the right credit limit, their credit status, their item cost, assignment reps, right? So as salespeople move in and out of territories, they change. We reconstruct territories based on volume. Do we have the right rep in our organization assigned to the right customer? Not necessarily for their comp plan, but for an escalation. If that customer calls in, who's responsible to deal with them, right? From a support or a sales addition or something like that. So are all the reps assigned to the right people, right? So we look at auditing, and you can decide what that audit is. You know, are we reproducing the SKU numbers? Do we have different information in different, in our CRM system, we've got one ship to, in our ERP, we've got a different one, in our warehouse, we've got a different one, right? Let's look at those things and bring that information, draw it all out, and deliver it to you so that you can make intelligence decisions on what to do with that as the next step. What you're looking for with all data in Sage 100 is really a single point of truth that you can believe when you look at that data, it's true. And if you can't look at your data and comfortably say, I'm comfortable what's within my Sage 100, I'm comfortable with everything that's going on, then there's an opportunity for Sage Alerts. Reports distribution. Someone in your organization over the course of a week is creating reports. So they're creating an SSRS report, they're creating a crystal report, they're creating a CSV to push somewhere, they're creating a PDF, whatever, someone's doing it. Why not use the software to create that information based on a time or a date or what have you? So every Monday morning, I want to know every shipment that's going out, send it to the appropriate people. Also want to know Monday morning, what shipments did we miss last week? Did we meet our delivery time frame, right? Because that's a report that's important. I want to know my AR aging report because that goes to, you know, I sleep better at night knowing that. But these types of reports, doesn't matter if, you know, as you all know, because you run Sage 100, you can capture data from any column. But who's responsible creating those reports, generating those reports, and then delivering those reports? This is something that Sage Alerts excels at. We capture the data and then we can send it out as an attachment, you know, as a crystal report or a PDF. We can send it out as an embedded email. So we take that data, we create an email, and then we bring the data into those buffers so that the customer receives it. And, you know, we brand it so it looks like you, so your logo's on there. And so there's all kinds of things from a reports distribution that you can use Sage Alerts for. And then data cleansing, right? So certainly if you've been around for a long time as a business, you'll get to 10,000 SKU numbers and you start to repeat them. It just, you know, sort of makes sense into doing that. But do we have duplicated records in your Sage 100? Do you have the right data within those records, right? So if I did a scan of all your customers, if you will, or all your data, what information do you want in there and what information is not in there, right? So do we have the right email addresses? And what's important for businesses across the board, whether you're from the finance department or the sales department, is contacts within your customers. Because people change and people move around, if you're dealing with a customer and you only have one contact, that's a liability for you. If that person wins the lottery and disappears, you've got no one to call. right? So one of the things that you want to audit for through your data cleansing is how many contacts do we have per customer, right? And where are those contacts assigned? So do I have 2 or more in finance? Do I have 2 or more in at the C level or the management level? So that if someone changes, if a dynamic changes within that customer and or vendor, you've got that information there to feel comfortable about, okay, Paul's gone, I can call Sally, I know she's up to speed, and we can go forward. If you don't have Sally's name, you're dead in the water, right? You do that big scramble. So here's an opportunity to use the software to make sure we've got all that right information through data cleansing. Inactivity detection, and we use this one internally, and I think it's important to you, and I'll create the scenario that we live in, and I'm sure you do too. We have salespeople that we highly incentivize to sell new customer ads, right? That's where their comp plans are based. But we also give them a territory management, right? So they may have 250, 350 customers, depending on your business model. What happens with that customer management, if you will, or is predominantly they're dealing with fires, right? Because they're highly focused because we built a comp plan to sell them new stuff. They're dealing with fires of customers calling in because system's down, I need a new part, something's broken, I need service, whatever the scenario is. And so their day gets taken up with those two activities. But the customers that they have in their territory that are just tickety-booing going along, we're not contacting them. We don't have the bandwidth, salespeople don't have the bandwidth to do it. We rely on marketing to drip market to these people to hope something happens, right? Whether it's a promo, advertising, or whatever. But who's really contacting them? So could I run a list of all your customers? If I put in any of your businesses, if I put Sage Alerts in it right now, and then I ran a list of your customers, who's not been contacted in the last 90 days? Would I get 10%? Would I get 60%? Right? That's a real number because you worked so hard to get that customer on board the first time. Let's not let them slide away. So here's an opportunity for inactivity detection to say what customers have not been contacted in the last 6 months, depending on your cycle of sales, last month, last 6 months, right? You determine the number that you want. And let's create that list, right? Let's also take another opportunity to look at those customers and say, what items or SKU numbers have those customers bought so that we can pull all your customers out and then stack rank them based on your SKU number that you have within your product codes. And why is this important? So if I did an inventory look, how much money do you have sitting in inventory that's greater than 6 months, right? So if you think of your product as money, your money's sitting in the back, we've got a chance of breakage, shrinkage, theft, all kinds of different things, obsolescence that are going to go on with your products that are sitting in your inventory. If I cross-reference a list of all your inventory items that are greater than, let's say, 8 months, cross-reference that with the customers who've bought that product in the past, what is the value of that data? Could you join those together, run a promo of 20% off or 10% off, whatever the scenario is, send it out to them, and move some of that money that you've got sitting as dead stock in the background, right? There's a simple scenario of how to use inactivity detection within Sage Alerts in your Sage 100 database to pull that data out and see what's going on. We also want to look at things like, quotes that are out there. Everybody's got this giant pipeline, right? They're all successful talking to their sales manager, big quarter coming. But how long's those quotes been out there? When was the last time they were really touched? That sort of idea. When have we quoted? How many have we quoted? That sort of information. So we can look at the customers and say, when was the last time they got a quote from us? Last time they got a touch from us, from a salesperson? Last time we got a marketing touch from them? This data can then also be uploaded as a CSV file into things like Pardot. So there's that marketing component where you start talking your marketing department tied into your data so that they know who hasn't been touched and who's not been touched, right? And again, it's an opportunity when we cycle through your data and we say, you know, 10% of the email addresses that you got, we got a bounce back for. Well, again, back to the first scenario, did we have more than one contact? So here's an opportunity to cross-reference to the second contact that we had in your database, going out to them, hey, we noticed that Tim's gone right now, Susan, so can you help us get some more contacts, or who should be really reaching out to for this type of information? Again, different scenarios, but how to use Sage Alerts to get the benefit from data that you already own. You've created all this data. We're going to help you mine that data. And then anytime, anywhere alerts. I talk about alerts, and when we install Sage 100, Sage Alerts and Workflow, we're going to install 110 different alerts, and I'll show you them here shortly. But you don't want them sent to you all the time, right? There's no reason you want some of the information after 5 o'clock. There's no reason you want some of the information on weekends. So you can say, this is the time frame that I want the information. But there's something, and it could be your cash on hand, shipments for the day, how many orders we got in today, that are important to you after hours, right? Because maybe you're on East Coast, but your office runs West Coast time. So you want to, when West Coast closes down, you want a total aggregate amount of orders for the day or sales for the day. That's an alert that can come to your personal email at 9 o'clock at night, right? So you get one at night because it makes you sleep better, but the other 20 that you get throughout the day, you don't deal with. Same as, you know, when you go on PTO or you're out of office, maybe have it converted to your manager or your team, so they get that information, so that you're not the bottleneck in the cog, if you will. That information is continually getting out in, so that people can react to it and do the right thing. So we can take these alerts and send some information on the same file, if you will, to the finance department, the shipping department, the managers, the controller, using the same data, but we slice and dice it to make it unique to the way that that person wants, that department wants to consume that data. And that's important. It saves them time to filtering through all the information to find the nuggets that they really want. So instead of delivering the haystack, we're just going to deliver the needles to them, right? So anytime, anywhere alerts. And then triggered updates. There's all kinds of things that are trigger events, right? So if you look at Sage 100, which you all have, right? It's a modular base. We started with a GL, AR, OEIC, and so on. Every time data moves from one module to the next is an opportunity for a trigger, so we can update people, whether internally or externally. If there's something that a client's overdue, for example, right, that comes up as a trigger, what is the state that someone is dealing right now, and could that be replicated with software? Well, if a client's overdue, copy in the salesperson, copy in the sales manager, send out a statement to them, put them on credit hold. What is the reaction your business does that software could emulate and do for you, right? If salespeople are giving discounts levels greater than 10%, for example, maybe you want to know that as the sales manager up front, that's coming in. Maybe you have customers who are trying to take discount levels from last month that are now stale dated, and they're trying to get it this month. Well, you'll probably want to take the order, but it's a great opportunity to call the customer and say, hey, look, that one expired, but we really appreciate your business, so we're going to let it slide this month, right? But whatever the scenario is. So again, having the information, because the software, once everything's plumbed in, will continue to run, but bad data in is still bad data out. So we want to catch that kind of stuff with these triggered updates, right? Quotes, really important right now. Things are changing, price points, our materials inbound are changing in price. So run me a report of all the quotes that are going to expire in the next 7 days. Let's get those in front of the sales team to contact those customers to say, look, when we requote this, there's going to be an increase because of X, right? We have the materials, the subcomponents in-house right now that we can fulfill this order at this price point, but because someone else is going to slide in your spot, when we renew this quote, it's going to be on new products ad, that we had to purchase, and it's going to be at a different price. So it's a honest force of a customer to make, or a prospect to make a decision by giving them the facts, saying, look, this is reality. So let's use what quotes are going to expire in this week. What quotes are going to expire today, right? So that we have a call to action for our salespeople, that they can use that information. What needs to start today? What needs to ship today? What has shipped today? All those type of things are available from a triggered update and that we can use going forward. So how does alerts and workflow work, right? And that was just 12 quick scenarios, and we can continue on and talk about scenarios all day. And I encourage you to reach out to talk about your business in your uniqueness, your bestokedness of your business, and see how Sage Alerts can work for it. But we monitor, so we're sitting on your database, whether you're hosted in the cloud, you're on a cloud service, you're on Azure, you're on a client server, but you have cloud connected services that you want, right? So I talked about a couple. SurveyMonkey, I send out an invoice, tie it into SurveyMonkey, get me my NPS score. I want to tie into FedEx, UPS, so when I ship something, my tracking numbers or LTL, that information is attached to my invoices, I send it out. There's all kinds of cloud connected services that you can tie into it. Perhaps you sell in multi-different currency, but you want to naturalize it to your home base, if you will. Let's use the software to tie into these boards that we can get, exchange boards, to get the current rate of exchange at the time of transaction, bring it in, naturalize it from this predominantly US dollar, and have it there, right? So there's an opportunity to tie into the system. You may have websites where you've got information coming down. You may have websites that you're posting catalogs to of your products that you have to do. And in some cases, that product catalog has to be rejuvenated every 12 hours because of price change, because you're in a commodities-based business and you have to, change those prices and those items. So there's an opportunity to tie in through the API level into the systems. Through notifications, how do you want to get notified, right? And that comes down to, not everybody is sitting at their desk looking at their screen. So email is a good way, right? And we can certainly send an email to everyone, that both internally and externally, that something's happened, you need to react to it, or here's some information to help move you forward. But let's text them too. Let's take some of the most important information and make sure we're texting it. And so if we got employees out in the field, right, field services, and something has to change, let's send that information through texting. There's FTP sites, we want to post things. There's WhatsApp. There's all these kinds of ways to communicate with people. Let's have the software take the data within Sage 100 and communicate the important things to those people in real time. When I talk about forms delivery, we certainly, you're dealing with, okay, I want to send an invoice out. That's a natural from a business. I want to send a statement out, a dunning notice, those type of things, right? But what else do we want to send out from Sage 100, where the data resides, that you can send out? And then maybe there's opportunities you want to read back data that's coming in. So tying into things like Office 365, maybe there's some keywords that we want to look for, like order by date, ship by date, cancel by date, support, those type of things. If those are triggers for you, let's bring them in and look for it. We've got scenarios where, an order's created and it's a ship by date that's just arbitrarily created 7 days after an order was placed, but it's not true. So once the order is actually in-house, it goes out to manufacturing, to shipping, to get a real date. They send that real date back, and we write it back into Sage 100, so that they're allowing the process to do, but using the software to communicate back and forth into Sage 100. Tying in through Crystal reports, SSRS reports, different reporting modules that you would have around the application. And this is, if you look at the databases of us reading a database from an application, any database that ties into Sage 100 can be brought into it. So if you're running, Scanco or Inventory Advisor, or you have a repository SQL database with WMIS reports or drawings that are associated with something that you have to send through. So information that customers need to have, but not particularly useful in an accounting package, if you will. Let's use Sage Alerts to tie into all those databases to give a holistic view of your data. So when you send, we go into different databases, pull the information, aggregate it, and then send it out to it. So from our reporting, there's lots of different things that you can do with it. But some people don't want just reports. They want charts, or they want colored charts, or they want, trend lines or things like that, so that they can look at it and say, what is going on with this information, and how can I best absorb it? So if it's something in your warehouse, so if we put a monitor in your warehouse of orders that need to be shipped today, and color code them so that they know that they're red, orange, green, right? So there's some sort of hierarchy level that everyone understands. We can do that with charts and trends and insights. And then update that. So synchronizing data between, as I said, if you've got Sage Fixed Assets, Sage HRMS, Sage other white label products, we can tie together and pull together with Sage Alerts and Workflow. I talked earlier about REST API and tying in cloud connected services, but there's more and more, as you know, everything is got an API associated with it, as everything now is moving to AI, artificial intelligence component to it. It's just part of the evolution. So the software sitting in between Sage 100 and whatever you need. Here's an opportunity to have a gateway in between using JSON, XML type information to tie it back and forth between the application and Sage 100. So certainly, web boards, you want to push things to different things. You want to pull down, so it's read and write, pull information, push information back and forth. So you can use triggers with REST APIs. When we look at the application, the first time we engage with you, we're going to sell you a one connection alert. It's going to have alerts, reports, and workflow. But you're going to go, well, I've got multiple databases. And you have multiple databases for either financial reasons, where you're doing database by country, database by product code, what have you. But that's okay. We're going to tie into multiple databases at the same time and aggregate that data. You may want to tie into public clouds or APIs, so we have that ability, or private clouds. So when we first supply the license, it comes with a one connection. You then buy a second, third, and fourth. Once you get to the fourth connection of Sage Alerts, we actually issue you an unlimited license. And there's an opportunity to connect to absolutely anything that you so desired. So outside your enterprise of 100, if there's other products that you run your business around that are database driven, here's an opportunity to tie those all together and pull that information in one spot. So again, if you're running Inventory Advisor, Scanco, those type of things, those would be individual databases, and we would tie them all together under the Sage Alerts cloud, if you will. So the next question, before I get to the actual product demonstration, is, does this make sense? Is there something that hopefully that I've talked to that says, I could probably want to have a 30-minute conversation with this guy, and let's drill down a little bit more on what he needs. But before we get that far, is it incredibly expensive? So let's see if we can afford it. So if one of those things that I talked about, you've got a person in your office doing, someone in your organization is responsible for that, and it takes them 15 minutes a day, and over the course of, based on daily monthly salary, that's $175 a month. Sage Alerts and Workflow starts at $127 a month. So just for the alerting component of it, if you will. So that gets you going, doing all those alerts out. Hey, you need to do something. Something's happened, something's changed. But now I want to run a report and attach it, Crystal SSRS report. So I want to run my AR aging report. I want my shipments reports, what have you. I want to run an Excel report. that's an additional $101 a month. And then I want a workflow module because I want to take that information and as a CSV file, I want to drive it to a SQL database, whatever the scenario is. So those three components, we're still only $300 and some odd dollars a month for those. So it's under a $5,000 a year assistance to you, if you will. So it's running, within your organization for X dollars a month over the course of the year, but it's running all the time. It's running every time you have the application. And then, as I say, we deliver the one connection with the original order, and then you add those 3 additional connections to get to 4, which will get you to those unlimited. And those are really the 4 components of Sage Alerts. You decide how you want to consume it, and then we deliver, at those components. Also, all the information that you could ever want about us is certainly from me, from your partner, or you can go to the website where you can get it. And then we also have available to you, because you don't need, you don't want to make a meeting to set up a support case, you have a question, whatever the scenario is. We create videos. Right now, there's about 25 different videos on the website that you can consume, you can, socialize within your organization. 6 to 18 minutes long, if you will. How do I do this? And so it takes you through the process of building an alert or adding an attachment or whatever the scenario is. The 25 are the most common ones that we get asked for. But if you find yourself something that's really bespoke to your business, I'll come on board with you and we'll build it. I got to tell you, we're going to record it, and then I give it to my sales engineers, and they reproduce exactly what you and I just did with our tech team, and then we'll create another recordings to help someone else do it, right? So we just use this as an engine to keep growing on and to keep building on. And then finally, before I switch over to the actual product, a system of actionable insights is the best means by which you can increase your responsiveness of your organization and differentiate yourself from your competition. And that's so true. We don't have a lot of time to look for things. Things are moving fast within our business. Let's use the data that you've got in Sage 100 right now to help your business grow, help it save that customer experience going forward, and help us do the things that don't suck up a lot of people's times. We still need that information. So I've just moved into Sage Alerts. It's a cloud-based solution. So anyone with the URL within your organization, because it's blocked to your organization, can go in and use the software. So it's going to look like this. It starts out with application events. We're going to pick either ProvideX, right? So you're going to have a SQL-based database or a ProvideX database within Sage 100. We connect to the database. Then each module, if you will, has a callout within the application. And with AP, these are all the queries. So I talked earlier about the 110 different queries that come with the package, right? So let's drop this down real quick. Here's 100, the start of it. So these are the ones that come with you. As soon as I install it, these are up and running, and you can start getting the data from it. So, total whatever, overdue payments, whatever the scenario is that you want. This goes down the line. So I'll actually open one up. Overdue payments. Let's try this one. So first of all, if you understand your database is a series of columns and tables, and I'm sure your partners have shared with you the dictionary, so you know where all the data resides within your application. I select which column that I want. I pull that table forward, and within those tables gives me all these columns within those tables. This then helps me start to create the alert. What do I want to have, and what's going to continually deliver to me, right? So once I have all the information, I've selected what I want, I can link fields. So if I want to do a calculation, Boolean logic, whatever the scenario is, I can take that information. If I'm comfortable in SQL, I can see exactly what I'm going to draw out through the SQL tables, right, to see what I'm pulling through. And then I pull the data through as a preview. So this is Sage 100 data, and these are the columns I've selected, the invoice number, invoice date, and so on. And I just continually pull these things, this information. What do I want? Who the salesperson is? What email address do I have? Do I have the right phone numbers and that sort of deal? Or maybe I want to pull all phone numbers, or maybe I pull all emails associated with that customer. So you can decide based on those columns what information that you want to pull forward. Once I create that query, the next thing I do is I want to create an event for that query. So let's do. And how I do that, I just schedule it. It's basically, I want to add a schedule. So when do I want it? When do I want to consume the data that's coming to me? Do I want it daily? Do I want it hourly? Do I want it every minute? You decide. And if there's something that's not in this drop down, you can go ahead and create your own of when you want it. So we fence out holidays that you deal with and that sort of idea. What is the trigger event that we're going to do? So we want to add that. And then who's my email? Who am I sending that to, right? What's my deliverables? Am I delivering an email, an SMS? Am I webcasting it to a monitor somewhere or a pop-up on your screen? Am I delivering a report, a file? Am I submitting a SQL statement, right? So all of the things that you want from a deliverable out here. And then when I create the email comes through, and again, I select the dates, the times, who it wants to come from. And I talked about earlier about sending your data as an attachment or sending it as an embedded email. And here's where you would do that embedded email, where I just put the information, I can write whatever propaganda I want at the beginning and the end of this, I can put in my corporate logo. But when I create this, and it may be a statement or whatever that you want it for, you can then take the information and put it embedded into the email. So that's a great way without having an attachment of just taking the core information, embedded into the email, and then taking the details of the information and maybe send it as an attachment. So it's that opportunity to do both with those. So again, we'll pop down into AP. So in AP, I've got 34 different types of events that I can run through it. And these are, if you've shared this with your accounts rep, whether your AP clerks or your AR team, they will get value out of this from a corporate structure. Someone is having to do this now. This is basically GAAP. This is general accounting practices that people need this information. So we've created it and to allow you to draw it out. So again, all customers, and we'll just try this one just for fun to see what happens. I want to pull the columns that I want. Okay, I'm just pulling my customers. What do I want from the customers? I want the customer name, customer number, current balance, and credit limit, right? A simple thing. I can look at the SQL statement and I can preview that. What do I want to pull? So there it is. There's all my customers, their numbers, their current balance, their credit limit that I've associated with them. So again, you can use this. Now at this point in time, well, that's great, but I have zero interest in going through 17 pages of information. So now I want to filter out, right? So this is where you start using your filters and your sub filters and say, okay, show me the customers whose current balance is greater than their credit limit and run me that report, so that you start to get a granular visibility instead of getting that haystack. You're starting to get the needles from that haystack, if you will. And this is where we start to do that. So it's again, okay. When we start out, and I'll just go down, okay, if you're running bill of materials, you're going to get the same thing. If you're running inventory control, right? So there's all kinds of different inventory control type things, last cost items list, that sort of idea. Again, typical things that you would run in your business. And purchase orders, the same kind of thing, right? items overdue, missed items, POs on hold, status change. What could be a status change? It could be a payment subject, right? So I get an order. Thank you very much for your order. I need your payment before I can actually process your order. Once I receive that, that's a status change. Before I make a shipment on your order, I need another deposit before shipment, right? So those are status changes that we're going to track. And again, for sales orders, so all the different things you could look at sales orders. You will find absolutely, as soon as this is installed with it and you start running it against it, you're going to start drilling down on these things and going like, well, those are reports start coming out, and then you tie into who's the recipient of those reports, right? And these reports start showing up on people's email, and it becomes an ever fulfilling process. They will then come back to you and say, can you tweak this information? Can you get me more columns? Can you delete these columns? They're not relevant for what I need it for right now. And you start to build these alerts. So what we encourage customers to do is not take these alerts as verbatim. You take this alert, you copy it, and then you paste it, another one, right? And then you go in, and then I want to change the name of my new one, right? So in change the punch, I'll change this. And so you start building that library of events for yourself. So you'll always have the 110 we started you out with, but it's not uncommon to find customers with 200 or 300 different events because they've taken the original ones and then gone in and edited the ones that they want to make them very bespoke to their business, very specific to what they need or that department needs or the consumer needs of that information. So it just continues to build on itself as it moves forward. So with that, I'll leave you with some, some thoughts. The installation of the software takes us about a couple of things that have to be pre-set up, some of your IIS setups. So you go to System Manager and set up some different IIS flags so that we can install. We need an email address set up in Office 365 or SMTP where you tie that information together. How we're going to send out those alerts. So it's info at your company, alerts at your company, whatever that scenario is. So we need those set up both front and end. Then we come in and install. It's a download. It takes about an hour to install. We go and install the event packs. We connect it to your database, and you're done. You're up and running. Now, from an education point of view, we look to your partners to help you out in the education point of view. We're always here in the background to help understand things, or if you got something that's really cool that you want to build, we have a development team here that will help you do that and build out these different events. After that, it's yours. Continue to play with it. Continue to understand the documentation that we've pulled together is written in simple English and follows through in a graphic point of view way so that you can see what's going on. And then, as I say, we've expanded those to different videos so that you can get very granular in what you want to do and share that within the organization. Usually, once you're installed, it's usually one person, and not necessarily an IT person, who is the master in chief of this, that they can create those alerts, because it's not something that you do all the time. Once they're up and running, so you're going to have 30 days of, oh my God, I need all these things. And then afterwards, it's just sort of in the background running. It's just turns on, does its thing, sends out those alerts. So once you finish developing those alerts, you're not really interacting with the software. It's just running in the background. So with that, I certainly thank you for your time. Certainly thank Ray and Chris for their time to pull this together, and reach out to your partner, how they can help you and how we can move you forward with this product. Thank you very much. I'm Greg Swella from Sage Alerts and Workflow.